we were just talking about the festival last night, and you, Lars presenting your film, everything. I sat there with the crowd, and man, it was my second time seeing it, like I said, but at the end of the film, and I'm sure this is true for every screening, everyone's just kind of out of breath and kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Have you found that at most screenings you've been to?
Yeah, it's I mean, that was the hope, I guess, was to kind of pummel people into submission at the end. You know, that's what a drum solo can do. But yeah, I mean, it's fun though. Like that's to me is the thing I get the kick out of, is that, you know, ultimately it's a movie about people playing music. It's a movie about, you know, not just music, it's people playing jazz, you know, and so the whole goal, the challenge was always like, let's make people feel like they just watched a war movie or an action movie or just something where there's tons of explosions and guns and, you know, loud noises, when at the end of the day, when you actually think back, all you really watched, I mean, there's certainly a couple of those elements, but all you really watched was people practicing music, you know?
It's great. There's such a sense of danger and violence
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
But also, I kind of, especially after watching it 2 times, it also feels like, and I know it's kind of not, of course it's not, but it feels like a very sexual movie.
Oh, yeah?
There's a lot of teasing and pushing and pulling and...
Well, J.K. is, there's just something about the whole physical, the physical apparatus he brings to bear on the character, and the way that he, it's down to how he dresses and his muscles and like the way he kind of moves his arms and the way he comes in close to Andrew and then goes back, and there's just this whole, I mean, that's something where I guess as soon as you write a kind of charged teacher-student sort of drama, you're already trafficking in certain kind of homoerotic, you know, if they're the same gender, you're trafficking in certain homoerotic things. So it was never like a conscious thing we discussed, but it just happens. You get J.K. and Miles together, and the sparks fly in more ways than one.
Yeah, there's like I mean, of course, there's this dominance that he's imposing on poor Neiman. It's Naaman, right? But he calls him Neiman.
His actual name is, that's the, my little kind of joke that I don't know if people get is, his actual name is Naaman, but Fletcher just decides it's Neiman, which is just, to me, it's like, it's just a further tiny way of, just, you know, Neiman sounds a little more reductive, a little more small, so I'm going to call you Neiman.
Yeah, it's like more of a Weasley name, like Neiman.
Yeah. Naaman's too strong.
Naaman is too strong. So I want to clarify, I know I've read a lot of things about how you came up with the script and stuff, but if you could just explain just what inspired you and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun, sorry.
No. I'd played jazz drums, you know, for a while, especially in high school, and I had a tough teacher, and I was in a very kind of cutthroat sort of jazz band. I mean, maybe cutthroat's the wrong word in the sense that, again, I mean, ultimately we were playing music, but looking back on it, there was just a climate of competitiveness and but really competitiveness with an edge, and it had to do with the fact that the band was really good. We would sort of win every competition we went to. We would travel around the world, and it was sort of the town's claim to fame in many ways, or at least the high school's claim to fame. And so I remember, you know, feeling the way I felt in that band, which was kind of constantly, there was a pride of being in it. It was tough to get into, tough to stay in, but also just on a daily basis feeling just utter fear, and fear of the conductor, fear of even just the music itself. We were playing really hard charts, some of the stuff that's in the movie Whiplash and so on and so forth, and it always felt like the charts were out to get me. Oh. And so I just remember kind of those sort of feelings and wanting to make a movie about what that feels like as a young musician feeling afraid.
I know Miles had drummed since he was like a teenager, right?
Yeah.
But he had to learn jazz.
Yeah.
He hadn't drummed jazz, like flicking the snare.
Yeah, he never really had any formal training. Mm-hmm. And so it was tricky because it was, in my mind, I mean, Andrew, and a lot of this was modeled on how I was when I was in high school, Andrew's like very kind of an anachronism in a way. He's sort of born like 40 years too late. He he idolizes sort of the golden era of kind of big band jazz, and so he wants to hold his sticks that way. He uses traditional grip. He tilts his snare down. He does all these sort of things that to him bring him closer to people like Joe Jones or Buddy Rich or Chick Webb or drummers like that. So he kind of lives and breathes that sort of music, and so that's the thing. It's not even just that he wants to be a jazz player. It's that also that his comps are not even contemporary jazz, and so for Miles to learn that, it's not just that he have to learn kind of jazz in general, but he had to really he had to hold his sticks differently. He had to really kind of develop a whole different physical relationship to the kit, and that was actually the hardest thing. He picks up stuff really quickly. He's a really quick study. The hardest thing was the physical, was just the kind of that sort of rapport with the kit on a physical level.
Yeah, even for people who like to see jazz drummers, there's something that playing jazz drums does to your face that only like jazz drumming does. He's kind of contorts your face. He got that down really well.
Miles, I started seeing that when Miles was rehearsing, and I was like, oh, this is great. Miles, the great stuff about that is that he's not even really doing that on purpose or consciously. I mean, it's just sort of that's one thing where, and he's spoken about this too, where having something like an instrument to sort of play on screen can actually help you as an actor, because it breaks down some of the self-awareness. At the end of the day, he's on set, he's thinking, about his character, about his lines, whatever, the beats he has to play. But when he's kind of, hunched over the kit, just trying to play on screen these patterns and rhythms that are really difficult, at the end of the day, that takes over your mind. That becomes what you're focusing on. And so yeah, there's a certain amount of it that stops being acting, which is exactly what you want. I mean, actors often talk about having like bits of business to help them in a scene. It's why actors it's why actors used to all like to kind of smoke cigarettes in movies, or kind of have breadcrumbs to play with on the table, or just something. It gives a physical component that keeps you from becoming too plagued by self-awareness as an actor, and kind of too hearing the sound of your own voice and judging yourself as you act. As an actor, you're always just trying to get out of that self-awareness, just to be in the moment, just to be like we are in real life, I guess. And so drumming is as big a bit of business as you can give an actor.
Yeah, it is pretty intense.
Yeah.
And J.K., did he work out for this role? Like, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. He was so jazzed.
J.K. at some point decided that it wasn't even specific to this movie. He just decided to get into really good shape. So before I even met him, when I met him, he already had that kind of physique. But then it was a matter of deciding to keep that physique. Was to sort of there's different ways you could take Fletcher, but I think Fletcher is someone who's so kind of, it helped the emotional texture of the movie to just have someone where you feel like you can see their veins, you can like feel their sinews, and like just the kind of, you can feel the muscles quivering. There's just he's this kind of pulsating sort of set of veins and muscles, and it makes him really sort of scary, but also kind of weirdly captivating to watch.
Yeah, he has such an interesting face too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you could study that face for hours.
Absolutely. And speaking of cinematic, I mean, not to spoil anything, but the final 15, 20 minutes of the film is. I mean, I was in tears the first time I saw it.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I was a musician, so I got it. I was
like, oh.
And you're so proud, and all these things. And the way you shot, what I really love about that scene is just pure cinema.
Yeah.
You can only do that in film.
Yeah.
What you did there, and it's so. It seemed meticulously constructed, the shots and the zooms and the camera movements. Talk about constructing that last set piece.
I mean, yeah, that to me is like, I mean, I enjoy writing, and I enjoy a lot of components of the filmmaking process, but to me, it's, the heart and soul of it is when you get to do, quote unquote pure cinema. That to me is like, every movie is like, should try to be an excuse to do that. You try to tell a story that allows you to do that. The same way that, this is going to be a very kind of highfalutin comparison. I don't mean to compare myself to this at all, but like, I think a lot of times movies are too kind of, we're too narrative focused, I think, in a weird way on when it comes to movies. And if you go see an opera, if you go see Don Giovanni or something, if you're sitting there kind of, really thinking about, spending all your time thinking about the plot points, I think you're missing literally the music, and which is the point. And I think in film, film should operate as music in that sense, that there should be stuff where film just becomes film, and hopefully the story supports that. The story gives you, certainly I think the end of the movie wouldn't work without, it's just a music video without the kind of narrative apparatus. But to me, narrative is a means to an end. It's a means to kind of give you those sort of cathartic moments where it just becomes about image and sound, and it's just so fun to kind of put together. It's so fun to sort of just imagine how different shots could work placed against each other. It's a whole kind of part of my brain I love using. And I mean, the tough thing with this was conducting it. I had this kind of I had this idealized vision of the scene in my mind, and I'd drawn it out, and it involved like thousands of shots, and I was just it was going to be great. And of course then suddenly you're faced with the the realization that you have we had 3 days to do everything in Carnegie Hall. So when it comes to like the real kind of meat of the climax, we had 1 day for the song, 1 day for the solo, and you have like 6 hours total where you get audience members, so you can only do stuff and pointed in that direction for like 6 hours. So suddenly you have these like crazy limits that you have to suddenly start compromising to fit into, and you try to compromise without compromising the actual aesthetic that you were going for. So that became the big challenge, was really getting outside of the realm of like my head and actually just executing. And the thing that makes me happy is that I do genuinely feel like we got what I wanted, like that it's certainly it's different than the initial conception. It should be, but that I don't feel that we actually ultimately had to compromise quality, that we actually sort of and that's just a testament to the people I got to work with. I got to work with an amazing DP and an amazing editor, and they just killed it.
JK,
yeah,
his involvement in where he's moving, what he's doing to contribute to that, what was like when in the final scene where he takes off his jacket, it's like you get chills.
That was his idea. Again, it's like there's only so much I can take credit for. The especially when it comes to the actors. The actors, I mean, you hope to be so lucky to have actors who are going to just transcend whatever ideas you had. They're going to take them and actually make them better, instead of make them worse, and it's both Miles and JK, especially since we shot the ending. We shot kind of close to the end of the shoot, so by that point we were all kind of in a groove, and they were their characters when the cameras were rolling, and at that point they knew their characters better than I did, so they were constantly full of ideas as to sort of physical things to do or bits of business, and JK always had a great relationship to his jacket. Again, it has to do with the ridiculous muscles on his arms, and it's kind of like, when do you reveal those, when do you not? And there's a whole dancer's kind of physique to it, and it was just a fun kind of additional flourish at the end that's just sort of but there was lots of little things like that. I'm like forgetting now other examples of it, but certainly just little things that were not on the page that Miles and JK both kind of brought both sort of brought to the to bear. But yeah, both characters wind up. Miles takes his jacket off before when he gets back on set, and as he's going off stage after he's been sort of humiliated, and then JK takes his jacket. So they both wind up jacketless, and just like it's like it's like two fighters in the boxing ring who are just stripping down to beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, and of course there's that shot of JK from here that you can't tell.
JK and I joke about that because he's got his face is the rare face where you literally don't need to see his mouth
Right.
to be able to tell that he's like doing something with his lips, because the lines of the face just kind of
It's great.
you could just tell from his cheeks what's going on under here. So it's like, it's great. You can actually literally do just like an eye shot and still have the feeling that you're seeing his whole face.
It's fantastic, and I love the little movie.
Miles cracks up whenever he sees that. There's something kind of goofy about it, but I love it.
It's so great. It's so great. Now, okay, final question. You're so young. I think we're the same age. Like, you're so young. You're so young, and this film obviously is going to open a lot of doors for you. You have the means now to pursue your passion, completely, which is fantastic, because you deserve it. You made a great film. Now that kind of the doors are open, you can pursue whatever you want. What are you itching to do?
I mean, well, the short answer is that I sort of had been trying to get another project off the ground even before Whiplash, and so now I'm finally kind of, knock on wood, getting the chance to do that, and so that's gonna be also with Miles, and we're shooting that next year. It's a musical, so it'll have lots of pure cinema, hopefully.
All right.
But it's so I'm kind of, we're sort of at work on doing the prep on that, and it's ambitious, so it's fingers crossed, but it's that would, that's theoretically the next thing on the agenda. And then, I mean, there's other stuff that I'm kind of developing, but I certainly want to do kind of stuff that's not music related as well. I think after this next one, I might need a non-musical kind of sort of subject, but I think but again, hopefully I want to just keep making movies that I would want to see, I guess, and just stuff that has a certain kind of energy, a certain kind of point of view. I don't know, it's hard to I feel like I'm probably still figuring out exactly what, I feel like there's still lots of things that interest me, and maybe as I keep making stuff, I'll kind of, it'll narrow down in a sense organically. I'll kind of figure out what sort of defines me more than other stuff, and but for now, it's really just approaching it as a fan, working with the actors who I'd want to work, who I am a fan of, and making stuff that I would want to see.
And gosh, everybody after the screening that I was talking to was saying, obviously, and I'm sure you've heard this, that Whiplash is more scary than a horror movie, and more thrilling than an action movie. And I shudder to think at what you could do with, like, one of those kinds of
right.
If you can make a jazz room that's scary.
Maybe it wouldn't be as good though. Maybe it would just be sort of familiar. I don't know. I mean, the one thing that helped with Whiplash is that it really helps when you have a world that hasn't been seen on screen a lot. Like the editor and I would joke a lot about how, like, if you're trying to figure out how to, like, film a drum solo or something, and you want to really do, like, a really good one, you want to, like, film it, like, in a way that's, really definitive. You're actually aided by the fact that there's not that many examples. It's like, if you're doing a boxing movie, it's like, good luck, topping the boxing fights in Raging Bull. And if you're doing a car chase, good luck topping any number of a dozen of great car chases. But if you're shooting a drum solo, it's like there's not quite the depth of comps. So it's the funny advantage of actually taking a world that maybe seems less accessible. You take a world that seems kind of almost too specific to make a movie about, and that actually gives you a little bit of a playing field. It kind of gives you a new sandbox to play in, so you can actually hopefully leave your mark a little more easily. Sets
cool.
the standards lower.
Wow, you must have so many, like, jazz musician groupies, like, who are thankful for you getting their world up on the screen.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, I certainly, certainly it's not a movie that's true to every, like, it doesn't represent an experience that's true for every jazz musician, but certainly there's a lot, and there's a whole side of the music that I think hasn't been seen on film before, and it is this more, and I sort of try to sort of emphasize, it's not the entirety. This movie does not show the entirety of jazz. It's a very specific subsection. It's a type of jazz. It's a specifically aggressive type of big band jazz, drumming led, that is really about technique. It's not about subtlety, really, and that sometimes fosters this kind of behavior. But that's a sliver of jazz. Is such a versatile, grand art form that there's so many other kind of shades to it. But hopefully, this movie at least gets that kind of sliver of jazz right.